Welcome back, Pirate Crew. It's your captain, Yeehaw Yadam, and as we continue the line of OPO4 leaders and their testing sessions, we've managed to find our way to Fujitora. Fujitora is the first green-black leader in the One Piece trading card game. He comes out in OPO4, and he has a pretty interesting effect. Similar to Don Quixote D Flamingo, he is a 4-lifer with a green color, but he plays very, very differently. If you haven't read his effect states, Dawn times 1 your turn. All your opponent's characters get -1 to their cost. So he has that built-in reduction that a lot of the black leaders do. He also has a really interesting effect that states end of turn, you pay 1 Dawn, set up to one of your characters with a cost of 5 or less as active. So pretty solid. You can make use of these character cards that attack, or they want to attack, but they're very difficult to defend because they're less than the cost of 5. And then you get to go ahead and protect them subtly from battle, but they're still susceptible to removal. Historically, leaders who are a 4-lifer with the black color do not do well. If we look at Garp, if we look at Zephyr, they're not truly meta contenders, or yeah, they're just not in the meta. They're cool, but they're just not in the meta. Don't crucify me for that. It just is what it is. And Issho, we'll see if he's able to break that mold. I know Rebecca had some success in the East, but Issho had very limited success. We want to see if he's playable, if he's a meta contender, if he's the secret spice that will make it to the West. Now, I have a lot of friends who are very interested, very excited for this color combination, so hopefully someone breaks it here in NA. And this is going to be my version of the list. Again, because of its limited success, this is another deck like Vivi that we had to go ahead and find some spice, amass the spice. And this is what we've come up with, right? So we're playing a bunch of good characters, and obviously we're trying to keep our deck below the 5 costs, and then very few cards above that, right? So I'm not necessarily sure what the best combination of cards is, but I think this is pretty solid. So let's talk about the deck and what we're trying to do here. We have a couple of 5-drop blockers in the form of Trafalgar Law as well as Hina. Now, why are we playing Trafalgar Law? Well, Law is just a really solid card. He is a 6k blocker that has a very nice effect. It's a reusable effect, so characters like this Smoker, you can go ahead and reuse it. You can play it Tsuru to remove a character and then bounce her back, which is always nice. You've never really gotten to do that in the black color. You can go ahead and reuse Brand New to look for other Navy cards in your deck, and things along that nature. So that's already a really cute interaction. And then because of the leader ability, we can swing 7, restand, and then we still have a blocker. Very similar to like the Flamingo blocker, Diamante, but just a little bit different. Not worse, just different. Then we're playing 4 of Carrot. Now, Carrot, why are we playing Carrot? Carrot is a 2k. Obviously, she's not searchable, unfortunately, but she does have a very interesting effect, a very playable effect that says set up to one of your Dawn as active, which is very important because that basically makes it so that our leader ability is free, right? She's basically paying for herself. She has a 5k attack stat line, and I mean, she's a 2k. There's nothing more to say other than that. I wish there were more playable green 5-drops, so that we might even be able to fit in Rocinante, and maybe we are able to play Rocinante. I just don't know how consistently we can do it with the limited draw and the lack of search for it. Then we're playing 2 of Dellinger. Now, Dellinger is another copy of Carrot, so we're playing basically 6 Carrots. This one's a little bit, you feel better playing Dellinger because it's not a 2k. It is, worse stats, but it does come out a little earlier, so that there is just that. Not a terrible card, still same weird effect of end of turn, basically make your leader ability free. And then we have our first little bit of spice. We have X-Drake. Now, X-Drake comes from the structure deck, and if you never played the structure deck format, X-Drake was a powerhouse of a card. This card says Dawn times 1 if your character is if this character is rested, your Supernovas or Navy type leader and characters gain 1k power. So he was used in the Eustace Captain Kid deck from the structure deck format, and even maybe a little bit later in some sort of combination of decks. He's really, really cool. With Dawn times 1, when he attacks, he makes himself a 7k because he is rested, and therefore he buffs himself. And then he also buffs the leader, right? So it makes your leader, which was Eustace Captain Kid, a 6k for the rest of the turn, which is really, really nice. But he also buffs Navy, which Fujitora is. So we have now a way to swing for 7, swing for 6, and then restand him so that we can go ahead and defend him. He doesn't keep those buffs, obviously. If not, that'd be crazy. But This our leader does allow us to defend them pretty darn well, and the majority of the cards in our deck are Navy or Supernova, so therefore this is going to be like an anthem effect for our entire deck that we can just keep restanding, which is really nice. Gonna go ahead and play 4 of the Kuzan. Kuzan's just draw card, has a great when attacking effect. What makes Kuzan again not too great is the fact that he doesn't have no counter, but he replaces himself and he's very difficult to defend. But with our leader, we can go ahead and restand and make him a little bit easier, and if we really want to get that -4 cost effect, he will make it so that we can do that. We also have 4 of the Smoker, because I think Smoker is going to be pretty decent in this deck. If our opponent ever drops a 1-drop against us, we can always place a Dawn under our leader, make it a 0, make this a 6, restand it, play it with Law. We can do some really cute things with this, which is pretty darn nice. And I think because of that, we just need, again, cards less than 5. And we are pretty limited on that. Then we've got 4 of Sudu. Sudu's just like the Otama of black. Didn't really think another 2k was the right choice, but Sudu seems to fit the deck pretty darn well. We're also playing 4 of Hina. Hina's another card that we can restand, so making her an attacker and a defender. As we can see, it's like Trafalgar Law. She's just a little bit different. She has an on-block defensive ability that when we combo that off with Paradise Waterfall, that's pretty darn cute. Our opponent can have a board of 5 characters, and we can go Hina block stun, Hina block stun, right? Which is really nice. It kind of defends an entire board by herself. Pretty nice wall. Playing 4 of Borzolino, just a great card. 2 of the Issho. Now, like, this could also be 10-drop Kuzan, but I'm not necessarily sure which is better. I mean, it's a really tough call. Kuzan might be better since we're playing the 4-drop Kuzan. If we're able to ever make the board where we have this 4-drop and then the 10-drop, then we're going to be in a really good spot because we can KO anything of a cost of 9 or less, which is really nice. But I was opting to play a card that's just a little bit cheaper, lets me keep up some Dawn, lets me use my leader ability. You know, I can go 8, 9, and then keep up 1 for Paradise. So that was my thought process between the Issho, and its effect is nothing to scoff at. Just needed some sort of big dude to get in there. Brand new is the Searcher. Sabo is a fantastic Searcher card for the deck. Well, not Searcher, just a fantastic black card in general. It's another 5/6 blocker, which we played 12 of. This one just has a little bit of a cycle and a really good effect versus red in particular. And then we're playing our removal piece, which is the Monkey D Garp, which is a card that we can restand or we can keep rested, and we can make sure to keep just popping stuff with Garp over and over again. And obviously our only counter is going to be Paradise Waterfall. I wish there was a way that we can maybe amass some more. Maybe we can like remove some Dellingers, play Shockwave. We can change this to Kuzan. There's a couple of changes that you can make, and that's what's really interesting about this deck. There is no figured out list that really is like this is the Fujitora list. So hopefully this works. We'll play some games, see how the leader is able to keep up with the meta, and yeah, let's go ahead and check out the games. Okay, so for our first game, we're playing versus our green counterpart of set 4, and that's going to be Don Quixote do Flamingo. Now, this is going to be a really difficult matchup because of the fact that the 10-drop is going to make it so that I'm going to be frozen for a large portion of time. But we do have the Fujitora character card that came out in OP03 that's going to go ahead and I believe is going to be able to do a lot of work here, right? Because that deck usually amasses, like, they're going to take the first 2 hits, right? I'm going to go 5/5, they're going to take. They're going to be at a huge hand total, and I'm going to go Fujitora rip 2 cards, right? That's the hope, that's my dream. Let's see if we get there. So I go ahead and I play out a Smoker, which cannot be KO'd by card effect, but unfortunately the Smoker got smoked. Couldn't go ahead and stick him, and that's fine. He was just there as a bait, right? Because I don't really plan on doing much with him. I go to attack my opponent for 5, and unfortunately here, no matter what I summon, it's going to get sugared. I did this ordering a little poorly, right? Because I should have summoned the brand new to force, and then I should have swung at the sugar, right? But now sugar's going to be, you know, a little bit difficult. So I'm going to go ahead and play the 3-drop from OP04 from the Don Quixote family, which somehow synergizes better with Fujitora than with Don Flamingo, but that's beyond me. He's going to give me that Dawn at the end step, then Fujitora is going to let me restand my brand new. He's going to hit me for 6. I'm going to go ahead and take it. Not really a lot of threats on the board at this point in time. He has 5 Dawn. He's going to play the Guild Tesoro, and yeah, that card's pretty darn scary. Unfortunately, I don't believe I have an answer for it. Searching for one at this point in time. I see that I have Sabo. I'm going to play the brand new first. Again, I'm triggering the sugar here as much as I can. It's going to go ahead and tap nothing. It is a mandatory, so once they click cancel, it is gone. So I'm going to go brand new at sugar. He could restand the sugar off of a spider web here, and that's unfortunate on my part because I didn't do the order correctly. I shouldn't have taxed for 3. Should have respected the 2 Dawn up and attacked with my Fujitora. I'm going to go ahead and play a Kuzan here, possibly. I'm going to go ahead and attack this sugar. And then I'll play the Kuzan. Then I'm going to go end step and restand my Don Quixote family homie. And then I pass it back to my turn. My opponent actually gets to untap with Gil Tesoro, which is horrible, right? But this is one of the only matchups where Gil Tesoro gets to do Gil Tesoro things in the green matchup, right? We don't really have KO unrested characters. Very often we have to go ahead and rest them and then attack them by battle. But specifically in Don Quixote del Flamingo, doing that is very bad because they always have 2 Dawn up. In order to defend it, he's going to go ahead and attack me for 6 again. I think I opt to take this one. My hand doesn't really have a 2k at this point in time. Just has a bunch of 1s. I do end up pitching my other 2k here. He plays the Luffy, not for full value, which is really good. Something that we truly needed in our lives. It does have a bit of Dawn access here. My opponent did use the Dawn -2 of the Gil Tesoro, so he's going to be unable to play the Flamingo, I believe. No, actually, just kidding. He never did that. So he's going to go ahead and get to untap here because of the spider web. And then this is just my unfortunate understanding of the matchup, right? Because I was trying, hitting him for 6 isn't good either. You know, he didn't have to spiderweb because I just blocked with the Luffy. And then I could have committed another attack. And then he would have just been able to spiderweb that, right? Now we would have still been screwed. I'm going to go and attack. I reduced the Luffy, which scares him, right? But I never had anything to do with it. So fortunately for us, that's good. So going into his 10 Dawn turn, he is unable to freeze anything on my board besides my Fujitora, and this is kind of what I was trying to get to. I still don't have an answer for this Gil Tesoro, which is not good, which is very much not good, but hopefully we'll get there. Now my opponent's going to attack me for 5. I'm going to combo out of this 5, then I'm going to try to combo out of this 6, and then hopefully we get some gaming in. He's going to Gil Tesoro here, going to go ahead and draw 2. I don't get to do that, unfortunately. The Paradise Waterfall also doesn't really do much for me, but I finally find an out to this thing. But I think that I have to use it on KOing the Flamingo. So I'm going to go ahead and attack the Gil Tesoro. He's going to tap my Kuzan, which completely puts a wrench in my plans because now I can't reduce the Flamingo in order to put him in Garp range and then Garp the Flamingo. So now I have to just Garp the Tesoro here. So I'm going to try to get as many cards out of his hand. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't seem like my plan of summoning Fujitora is really going to happen. I'm at 1 life to his 3 too, which is also horrible for us, but I digress. We'll go ahead and attack it for 6. Now, that's because of our homie here, X-Drake. X-Drake is really pumping up and doing a lot of work on this board state, fortunately for us. Going to go ahead and use Don Quixote family, guys. Going to go, and I'm trying to decide what's a little bit more important, the Kuzan or the X-Drake. And I think the X-Drake personally is going to be a little bit more important because it just buffs my board so heavily. Now, I do get to summon a blocker here. I do have the Paradise Waterfall as well. Now, but this Flamingo is really going to hurt because now it's going to freeze 3 total targets, right? But fortunately for me, one of them is a card that I do not care about. I do get to block here and stop the Gil Tesoro from attacking, which is huge. Then he goes at my Kuzan, which is fine. Sure. The Kuzan makes it so that I cannot KO the Flamingo. But sure, whatever. I was never KOing him in the first place. So, joke's on you, XD. So I'm going to go ahead and put a Dawn under our X-Drake, and I'm just going to go face here. I finally decided that, yeah, there's just no way I'm ever going to KO this card. I'm going to go ahead and for 7. He's going to trigger this ability, which I don't know what it does. Sure, I'm going to go ahead and hit him for 7 again. Hit him, rested my leader, that's what it did. I'm going to hit him for 5. He goes down to 1 life. I'm going to go ahead and attach a Dawn, which is going to reduce the cost of the Gil Tesoro by 1 because of, whatever, that's Fujitora's whole shtick. I'm going to go destroy the Gil Tesoro. I'm going to trigger the effect to restand my blocker, and I'm going to pass it back to my turn, hoping that with a blocker plus Paradise Waterfall that I get to do a little bit of gaming. If he does play another Flamingo, which he does, it's not as bad as it seems, right? Because I do have to just combo out of 1 Flamingo attack, which is very, very possible here. He attacks my 3-drop for 5, and now I cannot unfortunately defend this. If I block with the Hina, it is a little bit spooky because I could theoretically screw myself, but I can also block with the Hina, and then when he goes 10 at my face, I just Paradise it, and then I have a blocker for the next one. I'm going to Paradise anyways to go ahead and ensure that I have a blocker no matter what, right? So no funny business happens here. He goes 10 at my 4-drop, which is awesome, dude. Yeah, it's gone. And then he goes 10 at my 6k, and that's fine. Hina is equivalently a 6k. Unfortunately for me, the X-Drake does not get to restand, which kind of sucks. But what is really cool about the X-Drake is that he is still rested, technically. So if I put a Dawn under it, it does technically count for 2 Dawn. It feels like I'm playing Zoro to a certain extent, right? A little bit non-efficiency right there. So I'm trying to figure out what the math here is on like a possible lethal. And yeah, I'm just going to swing for the fences. Going to go 9. He doesn't have it. That's great. I'm going to go ahead and just hit him for 11. And we out here. All right, so we're going to go ahead and play versus Zoro. Now, like I've been saying in a couple of our other videos, it's just really hard to find anyone playing Zoro online. I understand. This was prior to the Zoro getting first place at the Knoxville Regional, so I don't think people were too interested in testing out a deck that had already been kind of mastered. And I understand that. So I do end up getting to go first here, which is good for us. Our hand is pretty good. We have a lot of cards that say cannot be KO'd. We have a lot of good things going for us. Go ahead and summon Smoker. But, you know, the bad part of Fujitora is just a lot of our cards cannot counter, which is really, really crappy. So he's going to go ahead and attack me for 5. I do take this 5. I'm going to combo out of this 6, and then he can summon another Dodon. 2 1-drops is also really terrifying. Speaking of, we got Buggy. Buggy's going to go ahead and find him guard point, and then Issho is going to go ahead and find him Marco, and he's basically fully set up, right? That first hit was a Whitebeard Pirates Searcher, so he's searched a total of 4 times already. I am able to KO the Curly Dodon, and then I'm trying to decide what I do here. It's not great. All of my options feel very terrible. I mean, the Sabo is good in my hand. I have a Law. I have 2 blockers. I have a Popper. I have a Searcher. I have a lot of things going for me here. And I do just have to just tap 5, right? No matter what I do, I have to just tap 5. So, I have to jam one of these 5-drops. And I believe I opt to go for the Garp. And I'm not going to use its effect to KO 1-drop. Not at this time, right? But maybe I should have done it, honestly. But I wanted to keep all the counter power possible in my hand. I could have dumped the Law, which wouldn't have been terrible for me. He's going to go ahead and attack me for 5. And this turn, I feel like I'm just going to get hit often, right? It goes, yep, Gordon into Pop, which is not great. So I set up my turn to really not do too much for me there. I'm trying to decide exactly how I do here. But this turn seems like it's going to be brand new into a Law. Was a possibility. But now that I've placed 1 Dawn under my leader, it looks like I'm going to go on the offensive. So it goes ahead and combos 2K. Gonna go ahead and hit him for 6. Gonna go ahead and play a couple cards here. I think that's what I'm trying to decide if I want to go ahead and play multiples. I could play the Dellinger plus the brand new and then restand my Smoker, which isn't terrible, but honestly, I kind of need my bodies to become blockers at this point in time. I can also play the Law, restand the Smoker. So I'll go ahead and play the brand new. Brand new is going to go ahead and find me 2K, right? I would love to grab Hina, but I don't believe that I can afford to. And then I'm going to play the Dellinger. Dellinger's going to go ahead and restand. I played as many bodies as I could to hopefully try to get in combat into some sort of competition where we have both big boards and then we can somehow finish. But he goes ahead and goes Buggy. Buggy adds Fire Fist, and Fire Fist is just going to absolutely clobber me, right? So this play, if I had just played like a Sabo or something, maybe it would have been in a better spot. Then Marco's going to hit me for 7, which is a really good number. Because that's going to force 2 cards out of my hand, and I don't really want to give him 2 cards, so I go ahead and take this hit, go down to 1. Being at 1 life versus an aggro deck isn't really good. I'll go ahead and defend the 7. He's just going to go 5-5, possibly. Right? And I'm going to defend this 5, and unfortunately, I'm going to pitch another 2K. Plays the Machina, which was another terrifying card. Machina is going to allow him to get 1 more attack, and I defend it as well, but I'm now down to a really, really low hand size. Basically left with just uncounterables, and I'm going to go ahead and swing Fujitora, and I'm trying to like play catch-up, and the unfortunate part about playing catch-up is the fact that there is a Marco on the board that will not allow me to catch up into this game. So I'm going to go ahead and get the draw here. I'm going to play it. If I play the Dellinger, it's just 1 less 1K in my hand, and I'm just at that point where I'm that low that I don't even think that, playing a body is good enough for me. I need to use my body as a 1K counter. It's that bad. I'm going to go ahead and use the action, restand the Smoker, and I'm down to 1 life facing 3 characters, and my opponent having 10 Dawn. Not great for the homeboys. So it's going to go ahead and attach Dawn to his Zoro. Play a Gordon. Gordon's not really going to do much. It's going to go ahead and reduce my Sabo, make it so that my Sabo, if it blocks, I lose it. He goes ahead and swings at me for 5. Swings at me for 5. And, man, it's just tough. I'm going to have to 2K here. He's going to 7 me, and then any sort of rusher is also going to just destroy me. I'm going to block the 7. He's going to go ahead at me for 7. And then if he has Zoro, I just lose the game. He goes Issho. Issho finds him Speed Joe. Issho again. Going to go ahead and find him another Marco. And yeah, there's nothing I can do. So after getting absolutely clapped by red, I mean, it is what it is. Our deck is not very defensive in terms of hand size, counter power, and also just doesn't really have much that, you know, deals with the board. I got Fire Fist. A lot of bad things happen. So we're going to go ahead and move on, refocus, and reimagine how we win versus now a control deck, right? So Rebecca is another deck that is going to probably do pretty well versus a... There are a couple cards in this deck, though, that are different than a just casual green deck. Like if you... can you imagine, right? Rebecca has a lot of removal, which is theoretically really bad versus a mono green deck, right? That's why black was so good versus green in set 2 when it came out and kind of like pseudo push green out of the meta for a little bit. Well, this deck kind of sort of gets around that because we have Sabos that can go ahead and protect our board. We can also play cards like Borzolino, cards that cannot be KO'd by card effect are going to be very, very powerful versus this leader, and Issho does have access to them. So I'm going to go ahead and hit my opponent for 5 here. He already does have an Olympus in play, which is horrible, meaning that I'm forced to go ahead and play Garp. Garp is going to pitch a Law, pop the Olympus. I cannot let that card stick because that card is basically full combo in removal, right? That's just full removal any point in time, removal on legs. I just can't have it. So Garp is going to come down and is going to do a really good job. And Garp is going to be really good versus the deck in particular because of the fact that Garp usually is too big from our opponent to go ahead and combat. And as they don't have the Corridor Coliseum, they can't go ahead and attack it, but they play the Gyats, which will allow him to attack my Garp. And then, I mean, if he goes 6 at the Garp, you paid a 2k to go ahead and attack my 6, which doesn't seem like a good play, but I think what my opponent was trying to do is just decrease the amount of cards in hand so they can go ahead and use Rebecca's ability. Speaking of, there we go, Rebecca's ability is going to go ahead and find them a Rebecca. They opt to go Rebecca instead of Luffy, which means they should already have a Luffy in hand. There's just a lot of information that we can gather from playing versus Rebecca. So he doesn't attack because he knows that if he attacks with the Kidos, he will just get removed, right? I can just attack it with my leader and then pop it with my Garp, and then the only piece of interaction he has should be gone. So I'm going to go ahead and attack Rebecca again for 5. And the more that I've learned to play against Rebecca, the more that these 5s aren't really that great because our opponent wants to, you know, just pitch cards out of their hand. Right here, I'm giving him a free remove a 2k from your hand, pitch a Gyat or a Bartolomeo. He opts not to, which is excellent for us. We do play the Kuzan. Kuzan's going to go ahead and draw us a card. I'm going to go ahead and play Brand New. Brand New's going to find his Garp, and I'm going to go restand my Garp. So even though that wasn't the best of turn for us, we were able to deal a damage, deploy 2 bodies, and then make our board you know, unrested, so it's very, very difficult for our opponent to clear it unless they have a Luffy. Speaking of, they've got the Luffy, but they still need the Corridor Coliseum, which is huge, right? So even though they did summon Luffy, unless they have that Coliseum sitting, which they don't, which is excellent, right? That card is a huge, huge problem. He just played Luffy into Garp Kuzan, which isn't great. I do get to Issho them, which is fantastic. Now I'm going to go ahead and attack this Kidos. Kidos is going to tap the Rebecca. I'm going to attack Kidos again. It's going to have to give me a card now unless they want to keep the Kidos on the board. I'm going to go ahead and use Garp's ability here. I'm going to remove the Luffy, and then I'm going to go ahead and restand the Garp. And I believe I value the Garp over the Kuzan at this point in time because I have Issho on the board, which is like a pseudo Kuzan. I was going to go ahead and attack the Kuzan for just 5, which is good enough. I'll remove the Smoker. They do play a Kuzan of their own, but I believe we have exactly enough to remove it, right? We have the Kuzan and we have the Fuji. We have a lot going on. I'm going to attack my opponent for 7, hit him for 9. Because this is exactly what Fujitora wants to do. They just want to be the aggressor, and I just get to be as aggressive as humanly possible here. I'm going to go ahead and reduce. Now I have 1 reduction on my leader, reduction on the Kuzan. They go all the way down to 0, and I mean, I guess I just swing for the fences here, right? Just attach all my Dawn into the Brand New, and Brand New, get in! Hey! So we're back with the deck, and Fujitora fell okay. I mean, let's talk about the pros and cons of the deck. Obviously, I did get, you know, in the videos you see a couple wins. You can see the strengths of the deck versus slower paced decks. This deck can just continue to apply pressure. It has a very simple form of protection against KO, but it's still very susceptible to other forms of removal that are more prevalent in this format than they were before. The deck felt, in terms of cons, the deck felt very clunky at times, but that isn't necessarily Fujitora's fault. But maybe because of my very greedy deck building, the fact that the majority of my deck, you know, falls between the lines of 4 and 5 Dawn makes it so that oftentimes I can't play 2 cards per turn. I can only play 8 cards per turn, and then if my cards are getting removed one by one, I'm really just not developing onto the board, and I'm getting far behind. Cards that double down as removal on a stick are going to be really, really good against this deck. Ace, I didn't show an Ace game. I played one, didn't record it, unfortunately, but that was a super cool game. where I was able to like take it even though he had 4 aces versus me. Cards like that, Mihawk, Kaido, Flamingo, any of those cards are going to be very, very powerful. But the deck didn't, at the end of the day, feel too weak. It applied a lot of pressure. It had a really good form of removal. And versus Rebecca, if they don't have the 3000 worlds, this is a pretty solid lock. The fact you can go Kuzan into Garp, restand the Kuzan, make your Garp really big, or restand the Garp. I mean, it makes it so that this is very, very hard to interact with. And we're also constantly removing cards off the board per turn by turn. Not bad in that sense. There obviously are some things that you can change to make this deck a little bit stronger, I think, and that maybe starts by cutting a little bit of the bricks. I don't think there's enough 2Ks in this deck. Now looking back at it, we can remove probably a couple of the laws, if not all of the laws, just to increase some more 2Ks for defensive ability. You might be able to add Shockwave or Punk Gibson, which are both excellent options in this deck. X-Drake didn't feel exceptionally crazy. But that's obvious because there are very few ways to find it besides brand new. I mean, he is a 4-drop at the end of the day that is backloaded, which is not exactly what you want to do in an aggressive deck. But if you are able to stick him, he's not removed, and he's able to get maybe 2 turns of damage in. He felt really, really good. As you saw in the first game, he got to do his thing maybe once or twice, and then he got flamingoed for the rest of the game. But it didn't matter. He was still like a pseudo Zoro, which was super duper cool for the deck. Kuzan feels great. Smoker didn't feel terrible. It actually combos pretty decently with the law, but I don't think that is enough of a combo to warrant the law. I mean, if we had more great green 5-drops, we can probably sneak him in with Rocinante, but without them, I don't think that he may just fit the bill. Sudu was great. Hina felt really good with Paradise Waterfall. Really nice little combo. Sabo is absolutely crazy versus red decks. Forzolino's great, and you know, the rest of the deck just felt absolutely fine. Issho seems like if the deck is a little bit slower, like Rebecca, Vivi, Nami, this card is going to put in a lot of work. If you're going to be trying to keep up with the tempo, maybe that you want to like remove this for maybe Sakazuki's and 2Ks, it's really darn tough to really find how you want to maximize the deck. But the deck didn't feel inherently bad. The list can definitely become a little bit better. It feels like its weakness was to, again, spot removal and overly aggressive decks. As you saw, Zoro is still Zoro and was able to just get me out of this game really, really quickly. But I suggest you guys give it a shot if you are a big fan of these two colors, have a lot of navy cards, and you've been wanting to play X-Drake for a long time because he's a super cool card. This may be the home for him in Fujitora. So if you guys like this video, make sure to hit that like button. If you have any comments that you want to leave in the comment section, your own special spice, your own mama secret recipe for Fujitora, make sure to leave that in the comments section. And as always, guys, if you're liking this sort of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button, as we're going to be bringing out some more One Piece trading card game content. I'll see you guys on the next one.